Over the last several weeks, something has stood out to me more than any time in my past experience of life. And that is just how valuable my attention is. Also, how important it is that I choose where to focus my attention. Another theme that has come up recently is how essential it is that I become consciously aware of the amount of distractions that would pull my attention away from what I have chosen intentionally to focus on. And to subtract those things in my life that cause the distractions. I suppose the thought of this started in a conversation with my friend Vincent Puglisi. We were at Social Media Week Lima, and I was sharing with him some of my thoughts about the fact that we were having an asynchronous conversation via direct message via Facebook Messenger. Just before I had left for this event, I had a message from Vincent asking, hey, can we get together? I'd love to catch up sometime. I hear some pretty exciting things that you're working on. I'd love to hear more and catch up. And I said, hey, I would love to do that as well. I'm in a season of intense travel, plus lots of family things happening this summer. If you don't mind, I'd like to just make a commitment to you that I will reach out to you in a couple of weeks, and then I would love to get something on the schedule. And he's like, Cliff, absolutely. Hey, here's my cell phone number. Tell you what, whenever you're ready, just call me. You don't need to send me a scheduling link. Just call. And I'm like, he's one of those guys. So we were joking about this when we actually saw each other face to face at Social Media Week Lima. Neither of us knew that the other was going to be at this conference, and it blew us both away to see each other there, and we had an amazing time. But I told him about the inner dialogue that was going through my mind when I told him about the fact that he sent me this message like, here's my cell phone number. We don't need to exchange calendar links. Just give me a call whenever you're ready. And I told him my inner dialogue was that, that you're one of those guys. And I said, I am not one of those guys. And I told him how I don't even have the phone app on any of the home screens on my phone. As soon as Apple gave me the ability to delete the phone app icon off of the home screen, it went. Now, of course, I still have the phone app. I like to have the ability to make a phone call. I like the idea of having the opportunity to receive a phone call, but I told him that I have gone through all of the steps necessary to make sure and ensure that no phone call will ever cause my phone to show a notification, to make a sound, to vibrate in any way, shape, or form, unless you are my mom, my dad, my wife, or one of my 3 children. Outside of that, my phone app on my phone doesn't exist. Now, I do have the ability to pull up and search for that phone app, and I can open it, and I can see missed calls, I can see voicemails, and all of those other things, but unless you're my family, it doesn't occur to me that it's that essential or that important. If you are anyone other than those people, there are other ways to contact me. That's all there is to it. Phone calls are not my thing. Another thing that I have loosened up on recently, but I am thinking about ways to navigate this in a different way, is my Messages app on my phone. Now, I'm an iPhone user, and so I use the Messages app from Apple, and I think it is a beautiful tool. It's the best messaging app, text messaging app, group messaging app that I've ever participated in. Until maybe you have somebody in your mastermind group that you've been a part of for more than 15 years and he decides to go get an Android device and turns your entire group messaging platform over to these green bubbles. That's another topic for another time. I'm totally joking. Almost. Anyway, back to the point. The reality is that my Messages app, I have done the same thing. Well, first of all, I don't have it currently erased off of my home screen, but it is on my second screen, along with all of the other apps to all of the other messaging platforms that I might want to check in with. And this second screen is where, if there are unread messages, that's where that little red badge with a number on it can appear. But it's the only app that allows a red badge, because I do want to make sure that if the Green Room Mastermind or if somebody in my family in the group chat says something, and by the way, I even mute all notifications from my family group chat that my wife, myself, and our children and my son-in-law, all of them are in this one group chat. And there are so many messages that get exchanged back and forth throughout the day. I've muted it. Now, if any of my kids or my wife text me individually, those notifications come through. I get the sound, I get the badge, I get the whole everything, the whole shebang. But group text messages and any text that's not my family, no notifications or anything. But because I want to see the number of unread messages, red badge on that icon for the Messages app for my family and my Green Room Mastermind, that means that I also get those red badges anytime somebody who is a contact, whether they're an existing client, a former client, a industry peer, or just any other contact under any other relationship that I have, if they happen to have my cell phone number and they send me a text, unfortunately, and I am using that phrase, it is an unfortunate thing when such a message comes in and it puts a badge on there that says, hey, attention, this person is requesting your focus right now. It's requesting your attention. We want you to know that a message has been received. And this will become important in just a moment. So all of the other apps that I have on my phone, on my second page, such as Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all those other places where there are inboxes, there are direct message, private message inboxes for asynchronous communication, all of those other apps, you could send me messages all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's perfectly fine. But not one of those apps will ever send me a notification that you've done so. There is no red badge that says how many unread messages there are. The only way I would know that you've sent me a direct message is if I open up that app, and inside the app, the messages icon, or the part in the app that says messages, shows me, hey, you've got a red dot up here. There are some unread messages, which is what I prefer, because I don't want to be alerted. I don't want my attention drawn to the fact that such a message exists until I've chosen to go look to see if such messages exist. It's kind of like the mailman. All right. I prefer receiving my mail the way that I've almost always received my mail. And that is, there's a box out at the street, and inside of it, there is mail that gets dropped off. Don't know what time of the day it comes, because I never really cared whether the mailman comes at 7 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All I know is a couple of days each week, either myself or my wife will walk to the end of our driveway, open up the mailbox, and pull some stuff out and bring it in and sort through it. But one thing we don't want, and I'm thankful doesn't happen, the mail person doesn't just come to the door, knock on the door, and wait there until we finally show up at the door to alert us that there's mail. That just doesn't happen. With the exception of if there's a package that for some reason it needs to be signed for. And that does occasionally occur. But it's so few and far between, it's not that big of a deal. But that's what I'm trying to experience. I want to experience the ability to be distraction-free from everyone's request for my attention. It's not that I don't want to be accessible or available to individuals if you're not my wife, my mom and dad, or my children. It's just that I have intentional blocks of time where I've chosen to take my focus and put my attention on those inboxes. It's blocked out. I have an ideal work week. I have several different slots and spots in my schedule for me to go do those things. And this is because over time, I've discovered that when those notifications would come in, even if I choose not to take action on the notification, even if I didn't read the summary of the notification, even if I didn't look at the name of the person for who the notification is associated to, the mere fact that I was in a flow state on some body of work and a ding or a little sound effect and or a vibration on my wrist or whatever the case may be, the fact that I have been alerted that some form of communication is now available and is requesting my attention has pulled me out of, and it creates, oh my gosh, there's this unknown. I wonder who that's from. If I were to actually look at it and to see who, I wonder what they want. It creates what's called an open loop. And therefore, even if I've, let's just say, put a 90-minute block of time for focused work and attention on flow state, creating something that I know is the most important thing for me to work on today. If I get 35 minutes into that and one of these little notifications pops up, I am no longer 100% fully immersed with my attention on what I had intentionally chosen to do with that block of time. That is how serious I take my attention. That's how serious I take my focus. And I haven't always done this. There was a time when I used to try to be available to everyone at all times, especially back in my people-pleasing days. Oh, wow, I bet you I could really endear myself to people if I could just blow them away by how above and beyond I go through being accessible to them and at what level and at what length and what depth I will go into to respond to their every inquiry. I will be their most go-to person when it comes to this is where I go to get feedback, advice, or whatever. I wanted to be that guy for some reason. And when I was that guy, there were all sorts of areas of my life that did not get my attention. It's only when I got serious about how I want to show up as a husband, as a father, how I wanted to experience my life when it comes to my physical fitness and the physical activity that I feel that is important to provide me the best chances of living the physically healthful life that I desire. I realized there just weren't enough hours in the day to give to my wife, to give to my children, to give to my work, to give to my emotional health, mental health, to give to my recreational health, my rest and restoration, and also to my physical. There just wasn't enough hours in the day. And I found myself overwhelmed a lot of the time, and I became a bit of a martyr, if you will. I should be as successful as I am. And don't get me wrong, I will tell you, there was a lot of benefits that came along with being the guy who shows up in that way. But whenever there are tons of benefits that one will share to defend such unhealthy practices, I like to ask a question that contains 3 words only. At what cost? What is it costing me? What am I giving up so that I can be this to these people? Or so that it can always be on? And so this theme for this episode, attention, focus, distractions, and subtraction. And so I told you this all got started in my mind. I'm thinking about this because Vincent and I were joking about the fact that, I'm probably never going to receive a phone call from him. I said, if you were to call me, you'll get my voicemail. Eventually, I'll see that you left me a voicemail, and I will call you back. But if you want to reach out to me, you could direct message me anytime. You can email me anytime. And Vincent has my phone number, so he could text me anytime. But I have intentionally chosen that I'm not going to read said messages anytime. And I will be very intentional and consciously choose when I will read and or respond to said messages. Now, I say that, but I got to tell you that just the mere fact that clients, industry peers, former clients, and lots of other relationships, the fact that they have my cell phone number means that they can come in and slide into the same channel that my wife and my kids and my mom and dad have access to. And so, regardless of how I feel about it, there are times when my phone buzzes and I see a text message from my wife, which is something that I do want to be interrupted in the middle of my flow state. I'm 47 minutes into my 90-minute block of time, and my wife texts me, and it's something important. Or it's not, but it's still my wife, and she's important. So either way, I am fine with that message. But here's what happens. I open up the app. I see her message. I close out her message. And what do I see? Lo and behold, even though they are muted, I see the unread messages from other people. And even if I have the discipline to shut the app without reading it now, there's the thought in my mind. I wonder what they want. I wonder what they're asking. I wonder. There's an unknown. And it keeps an open loop. And sometimes what I'll do is like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to screenshot this unread message. I will send it to myself as an email, as an attachment, the screenshot. And in the subject line, respond to so-and-so text message. And then I shoot it to myself. And then it's my inbox. And then that way I can actually open up the message without reading it and close it. And now the little dot that says it's unread has gone away. Okay, maybe I'm the only person that deals with this, and that's fine. Maybe you don't deal with this and you're neurotypical, and maybe I'm not neurotypical. I don't know. These words ADHD and neurotypical and all these other things get thrown around a lot these days, and I'm not speaking to any of that. That's not my area of expertise. But I am aware of my own attention being drawn to things. I am aware and conscious of when there is an open loop and how I have learned ways of navigating that, and it's still a process. I'm still wondering, maybe I get a separate phone number, like a separate eSIM or something like that. And maybe there's some way to take my phone number that everyone has access to and put it and associate it with something else. I don't know, but none of that is important. What's important, though, is just to hear, and what I'm trying to communicate is how seriously I take my attention and where I put my focus and what I consider to be a distraction. One trend that has come up, and this is another thread of conversation that has brought this topic to the forefront of my mind in such a way that I wanted to record an episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show with you, is this online community trend. I don't know about you, but me, since I've been an online entrepreneur, back in the days, we used to have online discussion forums. For me, I used to facilitate one called PHPBB. That was the big forum software that we used back in the day. And there were a couple of other online discussion forums that we could use for software. Eventually, a lot of that got replaced by Facebook groups. And then there were other services that came out. Some of you may recall the Ning platform. Today, I would say the big players are Mighty Networks, Circle, and it seems like the one that's all the rage today is Skool, Skool. They're all the same. They're all online community forum discussion environments. And I am not here to preach against hosting and facilitating online communities. I think there can be a lot of value to being a part of an online community around a particular area of interest and focus. But speaking of that, my dad's calling in the middle of this episode. This is where I'm going to take this call in the middle of a flow state here. And I'm back. That is exactly what I'm talking about. So as I was speaking there, my phone began to vibrate. I could feel the desk that I'm leaning on right here vibrate, which tells me that my phone is alerting me, saying, hey, something wants your attention. Take your focus off of what you're doing, aka recording a podcast, and look at your device and see what that is. And I saw that it was my dad. And I'm like, okay, this is one of the few people that my phone will alert me to and call my attention away from whatever it is that I'm doing. And I will always stop whatever it is that I'm doing and give my attention to my mom, my dad, my wife, and my 3 children. And what just happened there was, as I was recording this podcast, I took my attention and my focus away from recording and producing this show. I was distracted for just a moment with this incoming call. I chose to take my attention and focus it onto why my mom and dad were calling, and it was nothing urgent or important, but I did have a brief connection, gave them some status updates on my son who's in Japan, and just some other wonderful things going on with our children. They hadn't heard any updates, and so that's what they were calling for. Nothing urgent or vital, but it was a distraction from where I had intentionally chosen to focus. And that was a perfect illustration. Not planned. I did not set this up with my mom and dad beforehand, but it was a perfect example of how, wow, that broke the flow. And it's mind-boggling to me to think that there are people that can go through life and be in a flow state and be fully intentionally focused on one thing and have their phone go bzz, bzz, bzz 15, 20 times, alerting them to You've got a direct message. Oh my gosh, it just the flashback. You've got mail. All of these things. Now, okay, I'm not going to call anyone out individually, but there is someone I know who has a setup to where every single time they get a text message and or every time they get a mail, their computer both vibrates and makes a sound. And there were seasons where this person would forget to put that into a mute and or do not disturb mode or whatever the case may be. And during a 1 hour call, it was going off like 7 times a minute. It was just insane how many times. I was having a hard time focusing on that conversation. It's one of the reasons why when I do a coaching conversation with somebody, I said, listen, I will agree to do coaching with you. We will have a focused 90-minute block of time. One of the agreements that you and I both will come to this with is that we will come from a 100% distraction-free environment. And I do let my clients know that there's only these circumstances. There's the only thing that could ever draw my attention from this time that we have together is if my parents call, if my wife calls, or one of my children call. And most of the time they're aware during business hours when I'm having these conversations. So if I do get a call, it's usually something that needs my attention and yeah. But the problem that I see with these online communities, this is where, okay, bring it back. I'm back. The problem I see with online communities, at least for me, is that it's yet another inbox to check. It's another set of notifications. And by default, these apps want to put the red dots. They want to show banners. They want to show up on your lock screen so that the next time you open your phone, you can see a long list of the things that you were alerted to, but they didn't come through because you had your phone in do not disturb. They want to email you sometimes. It's like, hey, I got a daily digest for you. And oh, by the way, if you'd like, I could email you every single time somebody says anything to you or about you. And we don't talk about this, but there's this @everyone feature. And yeah, anytime an administrator of one of these communities wants to @message you and send you an email, and some of them are going to use the @everyone quite a bit. Notifications everywhere. And so for me, I'm thinking, how much time each day do I have? What are my priorities? I was a part of a few different school communities when it first came out because I wanted to see what it was. Why is everybody so excited about it? I am incredibly tech savvy, so I know how to go into my settings, go into my account. I know how to turn off all of the notifications, and I know I can do it per school community. I know how granular I can do it. I know it because I go in and turn it all off. But eventually I got to such a place with the school community that I turned everything off. And then out of sight, out of mind. And I forgot that I was a part of those groups. And so at some level, it's like if it's really, truly important to me, I'll remember that they exist. But if it completely slips my mind that I'm a part of this community and I haven't thought about it in 2 or 3 weeks to go and see what's new there, my question is, was it a valuable community for me to invest my time, effort, energy, attention, and focus in? Or was it a distraction? And the fact that it was a distraction became evident to me, and then it became a subtraction. I subtracted it from access to my attention. This has been something that I've been doing over and over and over again. And one of the other things that I see with people who are hyper socialized in these online communities that I see who are on the entrepreneurial journey, they call what they're doing business networking. They're growing their network. They're building relationships. And I am a relationship person to the core. But I will say that I have noticed there are a lot of people who are actively engaged in these online discussion forums, whether it's in Mighty Networks, Circle, school, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, wherever, and yet they are not investing time, effort, and energy having conversations with their exact ideal client avatar. Who is the person that would be your ideal client? That if this person were to know that you exist, that you delivered the value that you deliver, and if you could get into a conversation and or give them an experience of your value, they would hire you in a heartbeat. Is there somebody in your life that fits that description? And most of my prospects that I talk to, people who are potential clients who are on the entrepreneurial journey, I found that they're like, no, I don't even know who that person is. And yet they're networking like nobody's business trying to find their clients. And they don't even have a clear picture of who they're going after. But those who do, once they describe, okay, if I could reach this person, this that has this going on, and they have these qualifications and characteristics and attributes and traits, this is my ideal client. Whenever I've worked with these people, it's been the most profitable. Not only has it been the most profitable, they're the ones who calls me the least, back and forth. They trust what I do. They're the ones, when I have delivered, they're the most appreciative. They're the ones who refer people to me. And I'm like, so have you had a history of serving that group of people? Yeah, over the last 5 years, I've probably had 6 or 7 of those clients that meet that description. And then I ask this question: how many hours each week do you set aside and focus on having conversations with that type of person? And they go silent. And the answer so far, every time, has been 0. The number of hours blocked out intentionally and protected every single week to have conversations with people who are their exact ideal client is 0. No hours invested. But these same individuals are a part of online communities and groups that are constantly pulling their attention, bringing them into conversation, all in the name of building my network. And because of that, their attention is so fragmented that they don't have time. Oftentimes, because they're not gaining these profitable clients that understand and appreciate and value the work that they do, because they're not going out and looking for and building relationships with those individuals, oftentimes what I see happening is, because of the lack of focus doing that, their fragmented focus leads them to a position where, gosh, I need any income from anyone who might potentially benefit from all of my skills, talents, and abilities. And so they end up working with people who are the least profitable clients, who have the highest expectations of their attention and consistently want to go back and forth. Scope creep is that what it's called? Scope creep? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. And they say, I just don't have time to go and have those conversations, and I don't know where they are, and I don't, they have all of these reasons why they can't do it. But it's not because they don't have time. It's because their time, the attention that they have, it is so fragmented. There is no focus of their attention in any one area. Their their attention is spread across the vast spectrum of anyone and everyone and every application and every community and every channel, consistently saying, your attention is requested. Your attention is requested. Your attention is requested. So I even run into this when I want to go in and be very intentional about my use of social media. I will say that LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram are 3 channels that have allowed me to deepen my relationship with people that I've just recently met. As a result of those tools, I can see a little glimpse into their world from time to time, especially if I'm very intentional and I block time to do those things, to evaluate what's going on into their world and look for a way that I can interact with them that's meaningful, that is not transactional, but is relational. I love the use of these tools, but I also understand that Facebook and the teams behind LinkedIn, they have these algorithms. They pay very intelligent people who have done a lot of machine learning algorithms to pinpoint exactly how to consistently keep you on their platforms. Did you know that Facebook has a stored list of posts or notifications? I think it's called notification stacking, or there's some term for it. But the idea is that there's an entire list of notifications that Facebook knows would be of interest to you. So they know which ones you click on. So if you click the little bell icon, you see the notifications and you start clicking through them, that algorithm is learning what types of notifications get your attention and what people get your attention, what topics get your attention. They know this about you more than you may know it yourself. And then what they do is they intentionally hold those back. And they continue. So every single time you get in there, it's like, you have 9 new notifications. Dude, you've got 199 new notifications. They're only showing you 9 right now. And they also have very well-informed algorithms to know what times of day you're most likely to click on those links. And so they will, it is very intentional. And so while you may go in specifically, and this has happened to me, I will go in, it's like, oh, right now I'm in a 2-hour block of time where I am navigating the relational steps with people who said that they're interested in having a conversation with me around my next level mastermind momentum group that I'm launching. So I'm going to go in, and this person, I'm having this conversation in Facebook on Facebook Messenger. So the first thing I do is I open up the Messenger app, and then all of a sudden I see the little red notification. And the red notification is from somebody who is a close personal friend and mentor of mine. It is like, there's no way I'm not going to see what this person just tagged me in. It's like, how can I do that? It's except for the fact that, hello, I could choose to do it. I could take a screen capture. I can email myself and say, hey, so-and-so just tagged me in a post. Check this out. Here's a link to it. Or go search it. Here's a screen capture so you know what it is. And this is something that I'm truly trying to do more consistently, rather than clicking the link and reading the tagged post and then trying to respond to it and all of that. It's like, no, I came here to send this message to this person in this block of time. When I don't do this, let's just say I'm in a 2-hour block of time for my relational networking for people who are prospects who have expressed, Cliff, yes, I am thinking about your momentum mastermind. Yes, I would like to have more information. Cliff, yes, I am requesting this. I went there for that. I've got an hour and 10 minutes already into this. There's 50 minutes left, and I went to go send this message. It should have only taken me about 3 to 5 minutes maximum. And the next thing I know, boom, my 2-hour block of time is up. Why? Because I saw a notification and it was a person that it psychologically, I was drawn to click this, and then I'm over here, and then all of a sudden the next thing, and the next thing. And I'm like, The reason why I'm so hyper aware of this today is because back in March, I bought a Plaud Note Pro. No, this is not sponsored by Plaud. And yes, I've talked about this device many times since March, and I'll probably talk about it many more times. But I create a daily log, and anytime and every time these things happen to me, when I get to a 2-hour block of time and I come to the end of that 2-hour block and I say, my intention was that I would send 10 invitations to Next Level Mastermind Momentum that are fully personalized. They are intentional about who I chose. I have pulled them from this list of people. My goal is to send 10. And at the end of that 2-hour block of time, if I only sent 3 invitations, I ask myself at that end of that block of time, why are there 3 invitations instead of 10? And I tell the truth. I got distracted. My attention was pulled off of this and it was put over here. A distraction came in. And what I've been doing as a result of that is I've been trying to find mechanisms to subtract those distractions, to deal with that awareness that this is happening. So, yeah, notifications. Now, I will say again, social media is a gift to us who are online entrepreneurs. And there are certain communities that serve a very clear purpose. I still am subscribed to one particular online community. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's called groups.io. Anyway, this is a discussion platform community for the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club. I happen to be a member. I'm a huge enthusiast with the idea of bouncing my voice in electromagnetic frequencies off of the ionosphere and talking to people all over the world without the aid of the internet. It is awesome. I love amateur radio. But anyway, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club uses groups.io, and this group sends only emails. There is an app, and the app would have notifications. So it's kind of like a Mighty Networks. And while I do have the app on my phone, I have it completely stripped of all notifications. And so technically speaking, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's not even on any of my home screens. I'd have to pull down, search for groups.io, and then open the app if I wanted to actually interact with the members of this community using the app. I almost never do. I went into the granular notification settings and say, listen, I only want email and I only want a daily digest. And I will say, every morning I wake up in my email, I see all of the messages. It's an entire digest, and there are lots of messages. And in the past 3 months, I've probably read 2 of those emails, and not every message that was in the digest. There was something called Field Day. It is an annual event for all amateur radio enthusiasts. It's lots of fun. Just happened yesterday on Saturday, June 27th, and today, Sunday, June 28th. And I just wanted to check in to see what the details were for the festivities and what was planned. And I had an incredible time yesterday, and I knew about it, where it was, all of the details, because of my participation within that group. But even though there's 31 daily digests a day, every single day, and even though it does show up in my email inbox, I intentionally archive it every day without reading, with the exception of digging in and finding the information that's important to me. But even that is an open loop. because I do scan the digest. I look at the topics and then I move on. And there is a little part of my brain that sometimes holds on. It's like, oh, I wonder what so-and-so says about that. I'm going to be very honest with you and transparent and tell you that sometimes there's a link to a YouTube video about a topic that caught my attention inside of there. And I click through and all of a sudden, I'm here to check my email. I'm here to get to inbox 0. I've got a block of time set aside for this. And what am I doing? Wow, there went 9 minutes on that YouTube video. And I record that into my Plaud Note Pro. And at the end of the day, it's like, Cliff, you got sidetracked there, distraction, and you want to ask yourself, was that intentional? Is this something that becomes a pattern? Is this a blind spot? Is there something that you might want to think about going in, turning that off, and subtracting it, and maybe setting a reminder in your calendar once a week, each week, to just go through and see if you can't read through those notifications and maybe auto archive them and put them in a folder somewhere. These are the kinds of things that I think about. Where is my attention going? Is it fragmenting my focus? Am I being distracted? And if so, by what? And does it need to be subtractive? So I have a question for you. Where is your attention currently being spent? Are you aware of your attention and where it goes throughout the day? I know that before I was recording my daily logs like I do and have been doing since March 27th of this year. I think it was March 27th. Anyway, it was March of this year. Every day at the end of the day, I merge all of my daily log recordings from my Plaud Note Pro, and I ask ChatGPT to give me a reflection of my day. And it has been some of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had. And it's transformed my experience of life. And today, I have subtracted so many things that once distracted me. And I've never, in any time or season of my life, had more focus on what's most important to me. There was a request that came in via a Voxer app that I have. This is a little audio walkie-talkie app. But somebody reached out to me and said, hey, Cliff, I hate to ask you this, but I'd like to ask you a favor. I've got some information about a mutual friend. I'd like to share some details with you. What's the best email to reach you? And by the way, do you mind jumping on a call with me today? Now, just by knowing who the person was that sent me this message and also the person that was being mentioned, I already knew where this was going. And I also already knew exactly what I had intended to do with my day. I already knew all of the things that were on my plate that were my responsibility. And I also knew the things that were on my plate that I am assisting others with things that are their responsibility, but I want to be of value, support, encouragement, and help. And I also knew the amount of those things that I've been doing in my own life and helping and assisting with the lives of so many other people. And I knew how many things I've got committed coming up in the next several weeks. And as a result of all of that, I knew that this would be a distraction and it would have to be something that I gently responded to that was still aligned with my values, because I don't want to be cold, unhelpful, or anything like that. I just know, because I've consciously been aware of my attention, my focus, what I'm committed to, what my priorities are. I just knew that this was outside of my area of responsibility and or my ability for me to participate in that particular situation. Whereas in the past, I can tell you right now, I would have taken the call. I would have jumped on there, and it would have meant that several other things that were far more essential to my own story and or the stories of other people in my life, family, clients, etc., that at some level it would have created an imbalance. It would have created some overwhelm. It might have even at some point in the past burnout and or resentment that I actually got pulled into certain situations or circumstances. And I never like to feel those things. It's just like, wow, all of that. So my question is are you aware of where your time, your attention is currently being spent? And how much of your life is going the way that it is because of how fragmented that attention is? What would happen if you got really clear about what your desired outcome is? And you got very clear about becoming consciously aware of what you've already tried and other things that make sense for you to begin doing that you haven't yet done because your attention has been pulled in too many other directions. And what about the things in your life that need to be subtracted, but you haven't had the courage yet to subtract them? This is exactly the type of conversations that I'm having with the individuals who are just onboarding to a brand new mastermind group that I created called Momentum. Momentum is a group that I am launching with individuals who are on the entrepreneurial path, who are serious about what they want to create in this world, where they are willing to have honest, truthful conversation about where their attention is currently being invested, where their focus has been fragmented, and they are ready to gain clarity and insight on what their desired outcome is, gain valuable insights on exactly what the next aligned action to take is. Sometimes you just need that next step. Oftentimes they believe that they need the whole path mapped out for them. It's not true. All you need to do is take the next aligned step with focused attention, without all of the distraction. Anyway, this is something that has been my primary focus over the last several weeks, and I'm having some amazing conversations with folks about it. And if any of what I've talked about in this episode resonates with you, if you would like to see more momentum in turning your vision of the future into reality, and if you are willing to begin subtracting the distractions in your life, I would love to talk to you about momentum. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Go over to cliffravenscraft.com/momentum. Read about it. And if it sounds like something you'd be interested in pursuing, send me an email. My email address is cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Do me a favor and put the word momentum in the subject line. And I would love to explore whether or not this might be something that could help you gain more momentum in your life. I'd like to leave you with these three questions. The first one I've already asked: where is your attention currently being spent? And is that attention producing the life and business that you say that you want? And then the third question is, what do you need to unsubscribe from, or mute, or leave, or stop checking? You know, more access is not always more value. And I'm always talking about taking things to the next level. And I think that sometimes taking things to the next level is subtracting the things that are the source of your attention leaks. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level. Mindset Answer Man.